Hello, guys. Welcome back. And today we are going to teach global attribute specific attributes, Boolean attributes, and empty elements. We're going to treat all these things and we're going to use examples so that we see how they are coded and the result of the coding. Right. So let's just dive right in. So if you're joining me for the first time, I am Casey. My intention is to make sure that I simplify coding. I teach web development and also mobile development. So we are on a journey. We are starting from scratch for people that have not coded before. And if you're just new, please I advise that you watch my previous lessons. Thank you. Okay. So first thing, we open VS Code. We type VS Code to get it opened. So now okay, we've opened our previous lesson and where we did uh, referencing href, uh, creating a link and stuff like that using the href attributes. So today we are going to discuss global attributes. So before we continue, let us give some examples of global attributes. So like I told you, you don't manufacture attribute names. So they are existing in HTML language. And there's some global attributes that we are going to discuss today. Number one, we're going to discuss the class attributes. We're going to discuss the ID. We might not discuss all of them actually, but these are examples of global attribute. But you will see me use all of them subsequently, even if I don't discuss all of them. So we have the style attributes. Um, we have the title attributes. We have the width. We have the height. So many of them, etc. So these are examples of global attributes. And let us say um, examples of global attributes. Okay, so now let's do this. After this, I think we're going to do it with specific attributes too. Let us just list some specific attributes. Um, let's just say e.g. of specific attributes. Okay, so we have the SRC, uh, we have the href as we've seen, um, we have the, what are these attributes? We have the alt attributes, etc. So we're going to go and use them. So let us treat all these ones, right? So we go back to our code and let us run our code in the browser. And we said we right click if you have installed the live server. We discussed how to install it. Like I said, anything that you don't understand here, it means you need to go back and watch previous lessons. So we click right here and then it opens our code in the browser. So now let's discuss some attributes. Let's assume that I want to style this paragraph and this paragraph at the same time. And I want to give them a class. So a class is just a group where a group that different elements can belong. So in a class, you can have many elements that are part of that class. But ID is actually identifying is one single element in a web page, one single element. You cannot give the same ID to more than one element, but classes are meant to give that same class to different elements. So, for example, let's discuss class attributes here. I can just say class, and then I call this para class. Let us just say para class. Then I do the same thing here because I want two of them to belong to the same class. So I call it para2. Okay. So now I've not taught you styling actually, but let me just tell you how this thing works. So let's say I want the text of those paragraphs to be blue, for example. So now I have to, in the style element that is a child of the head element, I have to select it. And how do we select a class? Remember, I am going to treat all these things as different topics, but for the sake of global attributes, I'm going to do something so that you see how it works. So for me to refer to a class, I put dot and call para, and then I put open and close braces. And then because I want the color of the text to be blue, I can just say dark blue like this. And if we go to this web page, you can see that the two paragraphs, the text color now is now dark blue. I just styled a single class, and two of them have been styled in that way. Why? Because they belong to the class I called what? Para. So this one belongs to the class para, and then this one also belongs to the class para. Global attributes. So it means that this class attribute can be used on virtually all the elements. Any element can be given the class attribute. That's why we say it's global. It doesn't have restrictions of different elements that we can actually give this class, right? So the class attributes can be given to different elements, many elements, almost all of them, and that's why we call it a global attribute, right? So the same thing with ID. An ID can be given to, let's say, this header, and then I give it ID. I say the ID. The ID, I call it, what do I call this now? Uh, we can call it the heading, kind of, right? So we can call it the heading. So what do? I go back to the style. After this, I can just say hash. Hash is used for styling IDs. So now we call the ID heading, right? So it means I have to do the same thing here, heading, and then I put open and close curly brace, and then I say uh, text align. I say center. And then what again do I want to do here? I can say color of the text. I can say red, right? So when I go to that web page, you can see that that HTML that was right here is now at the center, and then the color is now what? Red. Because of what? Because I used this global attribute ID to identify it and then styled it in this way. I'm going to actually teach all these things, but don't worry if you don't know what all these things mean by now. One thing with programming is that you don't worry yourself about what you don't know yet. All you need to do is to follow the lesson. The lesson today is just for you to see how global attribute works and stuff like that, right? So even an element, I can style it right there. Like this button, I can give it, I've given a title attribute, which is a global attribute. I can at the same time give it style attribute. And then in the style, I can just say, okay, I need border for this, and then I need it to be 2px, I need it to be solid, and I need it to be what? Dark gray, right? So if you go now to the web page and then you look at this button, you can see that we have a dark gray button border that is just there, right? Anyways, those are global attributes that we can put on virtually all the elements in this web page, right? So we talk of specific attributes. So specific attributes are attributes that you can just give to a particular um, element, type of element, and those attributes cannot be used for other elements. For example, the href that we give to the anchor elements, the A element, cannot be given to the paragraph. Because of that, href is specific to anchor elements, right? So this is a link, and actually, like we say that the attribute gives an element more power. If we remove this, you can go to the web page and you will see that the WHO is not even appearing as if it is a link at all. Even though it is inside the anchor element, it is the content of the anchor element, still, we cannot see anything. Till Ctrl Z, we give that thing href and you can see. And then when you click it, you point it, you can see it behaves like a link. And when you click it, it actually goes to WHO website, right? So there are other, I might not actually follow the list we have in the whiteboard, but I can tell you that when we click this link, you see that it's opening right there, right here in this tab. So if I click it now, it is opening right here, World Health Organization. Go back. I may say, all right, I don't want this. If I click it, let it open in a different tab, right? So how can I do that? There is an attribute. That's an attribute that we use for doing that, giving more functionalities to this element. So there's an attribute that we call target attribute. So, and when you add this target attribute and give it the value of blank underscore blank, you will see that when we go back to that website and we click WHO, instead of opening in this tab, it will automatically open a new tab and run right there. Let's click it. That's it. And that's what the target attribute can do. And that's how everybody does all these kind of things in a website. If you have gone to a website, you click and then it opens new one. This is exactly what was done, right? So that's how to do that. Some people might agree that it's cleaner to do this so that I can come back to where you were. Some might be, let me not take you away from this tab. You can, for whatever reason, you decide what you could, right? Anyways, yeah, so style, title, width. So width and height, I'm going to use it later when I discuss the empty element, but I can still use it now and teach all of them at the same time. So specific attributes, href, alt, I'm going to use all these things, okay, right now. So now let's say somebody wants an image to appear on this web page. Okay, I have known that there is an element that we use in bringing image to a website, and that's element is the img element. So the img element is an example of an empty element. And why do we say it's an empty element? We say it's an empty element because it does not have end tag. Like we told you that an element is comprising of the start tag, the content, and the end tag. This element is an exception because it doesn't have content, it doesn't have end tag. All it has is the start tag. And how do we do it? img, and I am done. Unlike other ones that you have the start tag, you have the end tag with this slash, we don't do it right here. Even though in some situations you might decide to close it right here and just add this and leave it like this. When you're using some tools, you might need this, but when we come to that, I will tell you. So there are some frameworks that demand that you do that before it works. But for now, this is how we do it, right? So now this img element needs a specific attribute called src. So the src now will now ask me, where is the image in my computer, in my machine that I want to appear in this file? Then we have another one that we call the alt attribute. The alt attribute is a text that you want to appear when the image could not be displayed in a website. Now, let's go and do something. So let me check. Do I have pictures? Yes, I think so. Tutorial. Yes, I have this picture. Let me copy it, house one. I copy it and then I go to my project. I know it is document tutorial. In the coding projects, I have one project called HTML fundamental. So if I open it, I can see this, right? So now let me show you how to use VS Code to do something here. So now let us open this. So before we bring in an image, actually we can drop an image right here, but we normally give it a folder for images, for other resources, right? So assets that we want to use in this website. So I create a folder, I call the folder assets. And then in these assets, I can now decide, right click and say I want need a new folder there. I can have images, right? I can have audio in this asset too, right? Click it, new folder. I can have audio for audio files, for images. I can have video for video files that I will use in this my website, right? So, okay, now I have this. All I need to do is to put the image right here. So I can go back to where we were, and you can see we already have assets that I created in using the VS Code. You can see it has appeared here, and when we open it, you can see the audio and the images, right? So we open the images and then I right click and paste what I have copied. That is the image. And then when I go back to my VS Code and I check the file, open image, you can see we have that image, right? So now it's for me to actually put that image in my website. So in the SRC, I have to specify the path of that image. Don't worry, I am going to still teach you file path, but actually I'm teaching you something. At the end of this lesson, you can see how somebody can add an image, right? And do some stuff. Okay, so what do? I know that in this project, I have a folder called asset. And in that asset, I have a folder called images. And in the image, I have this. So let us go to the website. As simple as this. You can see that the image is now in the website. So I can tell you that if you inspect images like this one, I right click and click inspect. When it opens and I open this, okay, let me just go straight to that image. Uh, let me open it. Where is the image? Let this not take me time, but all I wanted to show you is that I think, okay, they use background image here. So we might not actually get what I want to show you right here. Anyways, let this not take time, but I just want to tell you that any image that is in the HTML, actually we use the img to do that. I wanted to prove that, but okay, let's just continue. Okay, so now the source, we have put this image. I can decide to give this image width and height, and I use the width and height attribute. I can say I want it to be 100 px. Then I want height for you, and I want it to be, let's say, 60 px. So if you do that and you go to the web page, you can now see that the image is now as small as this because I have chosen width and height for the image. As simple as that. Like I tell you, coding is not actually hard, even though you need to learn so many things. But if you are consistent and if you are persistent, it is easy. Yeah, so that's how I have added this image. Now, let's talk about this alt attribute that I added here. What is the use? Let's assume that I make mistake in the spelling or the file name of this image and I remove the U. If you go now, you see that in the website, the image will not show. And then I have this image, this icon, broken icon, meaning that something has broken. The image is not showing. But somebody doesn't actually know the type of image here, or if a screen reader is reading this, or the search engine is working on this page, nobody knows what I mean, what is here because it's broken. So for me to actually do that, what I can do is to come to Alt attribute, which is alternate text, should the image not display. That's what this means. I'll say, okay, houses, right? So when you go to my web page, you can see that it doesn't just give this broken, it says houses. And this only appears when this image does not show up. So now I go and make the spelling correct. You can go back and you will see that the image has now appeared and the alt text is no longer there because the use is gone. The use is when the image doesn't appear. Anyways, that is what these attributes are, specific attributes that we know. I mean, the SRC and the alt are specific, but the height and width are one of the what, global attributes that we can use in many elements, right? So we can go to the virtual whiteboard and look. Okay, let us go to the other page and see stuff that we wanted to. So we've covered the specific attributes, the global attributes, the Boolean attribute. The empty element is the image. That is an element that has only the start tag, but there is no content and the end tag. We call them empty elements. Empty element because it does not have content naturally. So for an element to have a content, the start tag and the end tag should be there so that in between the two, we have the content, or we can even nest other elements there. All right, so it's an empty element. Okay, so now we go back there and then we see, okay, we've touched everything we wanted to touch here and then here too. Yeah, and I think that's just what I wanted to show you so that you can see what we mean by global attributes, those attributes that we can give to virtually all the elements in a web page, specific attributes that are specific to some elements, like the img can take the source attribute, but the paragraph element cannot take the src element. The class element here is a global attribute because we can give it to even the image, but this p cannot take the other one. So yeah, so Boolean attributes, good. I think we've not treated this, and that's where we're going now. So let's assume that somebody wants you to fill a form and submit, right? How do we do that in HTML? It's very simple. All I need to do is to do the form element form, right? So, sorry. So as you can see, we have the start tag and the end tag. The difference between the start tag and the end tag is the slash. Okay. So now inside this, I need an input. Actually, when you go to the web page, you might not see any difference, right? But I can now use the input element, which is also an empty element that we use in prompting the user to put some information, to type in information. Let us go back and then you see that we have an input. Look at it. And I know you see this thing, this kind of thing all the time. Okay, permit me to move this form from here, Control X, to before the first paragraph. Paste it here, right? Let's go back. I just want it to be up there. Yes, here. So you can see I can type in something, Henry Casey, right? Just like you can fill forms. Okay, now let's say I need a button that when I finish filling this form, I submit it to a back end. So I come and say, okay, I need a button, right? And that button, this is the start tag, this is the end tag of the button, and then I want to say the submit so that it brings up submit there as a button. Look at it. So now I have to come and say that the type of this button is an attribute now, the type attribute. You can see how I use attributes every now and then, right? Elements, attributes. These are things that you must know in HTML programming. So, and then I say, I want you to be submit button, right? So that when somebody fills in the form, the person can actually do what? Submit. Okay, I say Henry KC. Oh boy. Henry Casey, submit. You can see that it's trying to submit and it has cleared this one, right? Even though it's not going to anywhere because we didn't link it. But let's say that somebody tries to submit, even when the person didn't fill this one, submit. It is moving too. And then I say, no, before you submit, you must fill this stuff. Okay, I go back. I use what we call the Boolean attribute. A Boolean attribute is an attribute that we only put the name only. We don't say equal sign, we don't say open and close quote like we do here, right? We just put only the name. If this ID attribute were to be a Boolean attribute, it means I just add the ID and I forget everything from this equal sign. That's what I want to use on this input. And there is a Boolean attribute that we call the required attribute. So what does it do? Telling this code that the user must fill in something before the person submits. Now let us go and check. So you might not see anything in the display, the UI, but if you click submit now, it is telling you, my friend, please fill out this field. You must do that before you submit. And that is how I achieved that with the what? The required attribute. Then I fill in something, Henry KC, then I try to submit, and then yes, it has gone and it has cleared it. Right? So I think this is the all I have for you today. Global attributes, the specific attributes, the empty element, and all this stuff. So please, if you're joining me for the first time, I want you to follow me. I want you to like and comment. Ask me questions based on what I have taught now. I want this comment section to be busy, and that is how you can actually help us promote this and also help us to gather the momentum for teaching you this. All right. So yeah, please follow me if you've not followed me, like and comment. And if you're watching me from my YouTube channel, please subscribe and hit the bell button so that anytime I release something like this, you should be able to get a notification. Thank you and see you on the next one. Bye.